Today on Jikoni Magic, I'm so excited to share with you my twist on Ndumas. We are so used to having them either boiled or in a stew. I'll show you how I stuff mine. These are our ingredients: 500 grams of mincemeat, 600 grams of chopped Ndumas, 2 cloves of garlic, dhania leaves, 1 onion, and 1 tomato. The rest of the ingredients I'll show you as we cook. And so I started by adding my Ndumas to the sufuria. Added just enough water to cover them and placed them on the heat for them to start boiling. And in the meantime, as the Ndumas were cooking, I added my onions to my preheated sunflower oil, cooked them for about 2 minutes for them to just turn translucent before adding my garlic. And then I cooked the garlic for about 2 minutes or so. I didn't want it to brown, and then added the curry powder. I left the curry powder to cook for a minute to get the raw taste and aroma off. And that's when I added the mincemeat. Now, after adding the mincemeat, at this point, it's very important for you to stir it and make sure that you break it apart so that it does not clump as it begins to steam. If you've not broken it down, you'll find that the mincemeat will want to clump together. So instead of having mincemeat, you're going to have lumps and lumps of mincemeat. If that makes any sense. I don't know if I made sense, but I'm sure you get the picture. And so I covered and left the water to evaporate on medium heat. And as the mincemeat is cooking, let me show you my Ndumas. Now, I'm cooking them uncovered because of the furious boiling that was releasing so much foam, and it was pouring onto my cooker. So I'll show you later when I got to cover it. And so this is after about 5 minutes, and the water from the mincemeat has evaporated. I then cracked fresh black pepper and added 1 beef chili cube. You can add a regular beef cube or just don't add any at all if you do not want to. I added this because I wanted just a bit more zing and flavor to my stuffing for the Ndumas. And so I broke it down, made sure that it was mixed thoroughly into my mincemeat, and then added just enough water to cover the top of the mincemeat, covered it, and left it to simmer for about 10 minutes for the water to evaporate. And by then the mincemeat was cooked, because mincemeat doesn't take long to cook. And so here is my mincemeat. As you can see, the water has evaporated, and I'm pretty confident that it was cooked at this point. So this is when I added my tomatoes. I wasn't going to make this to be dry like samosa filling at this point. I'll show you later on what I did with this stuffing. Yeah, but for now, just trust me. Let's cook along and you'll see what I'm going to do with this stuffing. And so I covered, reduced the heat, and left the tomatoes to simmer for about 2 minutes to soften and release their juices. And as you can see, the tomatoes have really broken down, and the ones that had not finished breaking down, I mashed on the sides of the sufuria to release more of their juices. Let me show you the Ndumas. The furious boiling and the production of that foam had really reduced, and so I was able to cover them. And I didn't cover them completely. As you can see, I partially covered them, and it took me an hour for the Ndumas to be completely cooked to my satisfaction. And so back to cooking my stuffing of the mincemeat. So after I was satisfied with the way I had mashed the tomatoes on the sides of the sufuria, I added my dhania, the coriander, and the hoho, that is the green bell pepper. Mixed everything in properly. And then added my Royco, a teaspoon of Royco mixed into about a tablespoon of cold water. Mixed everything thoroughly. Added just enough water to cover the top of the meat. And then covered and left to simmer for just a minute to make sure that the Royco was sufficiently cooked. So here is my sauce or stew. After about a minute, as you can see, it's very thick and very inviting. And so now this is what I did. I scooped some of this sauce and set it aside so that it could be used for dipping when eating the stuffed Ndumas. I scooped out just a bit of the meat and some of the sauce, as you can see here. Once the Ndumas were done, I just reheated it in the microwave, so that was not really an issue. So here is the meat that was left. As you can see, it still got some bit of wetness, and so what I did is I just simmered it on very low heat for the water to evaporate, but I didn't let it evaporate completely. As you can see, there's still some bit of moisture because I wanted the inside of the nduma to really be juicy, soft and succulent. If you want, you can dry off your mincemeat completely. And then lastly, I added my dhania, stirred and turned off the heat because my mincemeat was done, so the stuffing was ready. And my ndumas were also ready after about an hour of boiling them. And so I started by adding salt to taste, followed by freshly cracked black pepper and coriander to my ndumas. And then I started mashing. I like mashing my ndumas when they are this wet because as you keep mashing your ndumas, you'll find that because of the high starch content, they will start to become very sticky and very gummy. Then I added 60 grams of butter, mixed it in. As you can see, it's starting to become sticky and gummy. And after I had broken down most of the ndumas, I changed to a wooden ladle and kept on mashing. And the more I mashed, the stickier the ndumas became. They became really, really gummy, as you can see. See, as I'm mashing, they're almost pulling and following the ladle that I'm using for mashing. You see, once I was done with mashing, see how sticky they are? Yeah, that's how they become, and that's why I use a lot of water when mashing the ndumas. And then I added the dhanias at the very end again because I felt like the dhanias were not enough, and I just mixed them in by using the folding motion. So now let's start making our nduma balls. We have to really wet our hands because there's no other way of forming these balls, and then scoop just enough of the mashed ndumas onto your hands and start forming the ball. Don't forget to keep wetting your hands as you move along because this mixture will stick on you so fast you won't believe it. And at this point, I feel that I should point out that your hands, the water that you're using, the containers should be very, very, very clean, because this step involves a lot of food handling. Poke a hole in the middle using your finger, and then put 2 teaspoons of mincemeat in that hole. Then pat all the mincemeat down to keep it nice and tidy so that it doesn't start falling over when you start now folding over your mashed nduma. Now just keep pulling the nduma up from the sides until you cover your mincemeat or your stuffing. So just patiently gather and pull towards the center, and eventually you're going to cover all your mincemeat. There, you see it had already started sticking to my hand, so just wet the hand again and formed a ball. Now guys, if you can, try and form a better ball than mine. So after I was satisfied with the ball that I had formed, I rolled the ndumas in breadcrumbs. I didn't really do anything fancy to the breadcrumbs. All I did was I added salt and freshly cracked black pepper. That was it. And then made sure that I coated my ndumas thoroughly. This is a step that you cannot afford to hurry up, because you want the breadcrumbs to form a very crispy texture when they are fried later on. And so these are my nduma balls. They are still very, very soft, and so for them to firm up, I covered with plastic wrap and kept them in the refrigerator for 2 hours. I cooked my ndumas on oil that had been heated on medium heat. Make sure that the ndumas don't stick together. Medium heat is very good because it will allow the breadcrumb coating to really become crispy and nice. So cook your ndumas for 3 minutes before coming to turn them over. This will give your breadcrumb coating time to really crisp up and for the ndumas to heat up from the inside out, because remember they're in the refrigerator, and when in there they became very cold and they need to heat up. By this time they should have turned a very nice golden color. As you can see, there they are, looking very beautiful. So turn them over and let them cook for a further 3 minutes. So in total 6 minutes of cooking at this point. And then take them off the heat. Place them on a kitchen paper for the extra oil or the excess oil to be absorbed. And so let me demonstrate how crispy they were. You can hear that? Exactly, very, very crispy. And this is the sauce that I had scooped out for anyone who wanted to dip their ndumas in there. And so let me show you also the inside of the ndumas, because I believe you should see the inside. Look at it. It's very, very juicy and moist. And so also let me take a bite. Hear that? Hear that crunch? Yeah, that's what I was after by using the moderate heat for cooking. And so thank you so much for tuning in to this video recipe. Please subscribe to my channel, like this video, share it with your friends, and see you next time on Jikoni Magic. Goodbye.